There's power in taking a photograph. There's power in being an artist.
It's the Phoenix Film Revival Podcast.
All right, welcome to yet again another Phoenix Film Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Yannicone, and today we have with us
Matt Beaty.
Matt Beaty. He's our friend up here in Flagstaff, Arizona. One of my fun places to visit when it's hot down here, which it is at the moment.
Absolutely.
And Matt actually works at Hidden Light. He owns it, co-owns it. What's the lowdown on that?
I am the sole owner, baby. It's all me.
He's the boss man. So Matt's a really cool guy. I met him a while back, and we pretty much started chatting about, darkroom stuff. And I want to say probably a couple of years ago, we ended up doing a community photo walk, and we decided let's skip town and go up to Flagstaff where it's a little cooler, and got a little tour of the darkroom up there and the space that they work out of. So Hidden Light's a really awesome place. They do platinum, palladium printing and all sorts of other little things in their shop. So Matt, thank you so much for jumping on this podcast with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So not only are you guys pretty much the one of the only places in the world where you can get the size of platinum palladium prints that you guys do, but you also have a framing department there, a camera shop, and a gallery.
Yeah, ADHD is a thing, man. So I can't just do any one thing. You got to switch from one, do the other, and all of the things are sort of interconnected. So you can buy the film from me, I'll process it, we'll scan it, I can do the file work, we'll print it and frame it, and then install it.
Awesome.
Start to finish.
That's awesome. That's the whole shebang from start to finish.
It is a lot.
So Hidden Light, how did you come about getting into photography and then eventually into, I guess, Hidden Light? What give us a little backstory behind that.
Sure. I think, like a lot of us, I started in high school. That's the time where you're exploring new hobbies and whatever. So I jumped into photography after playing with a friend's 6-megapixel point and shoot, right? One of my friends at high school brought it, and we were all hanging out taking pictures, and I took a couple macro photos, and I was like, whoa, this is cool. I got to do this. And so it was this weird time in the mid-aughts where digital was still sort of coming of age and film was still very prevalent. So I had this weird mixed analog digital experience where I was learning photography. So I would, take a film camera to the school dances and the sport ball games and all of the stuff you do in high school.
Oh yeah.
And I would also bring a digital camera, and I was always shooting both. And this is in the good old days when you could buy film for $3 a roll and get it developed same day at Costco for $2.50 with prints.
Oh man, I miss those days.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, it was really accessible. It was really easy for me. And so from high school, I moved into college, and I chose to go to Northern Arizona University out here in Flagstaff, primarily because it had a wet darkroom. And it was one of the few universities I looked at in a climate I was willing to live in.
Fair enough.
That had a wet darkroom. And it was open to students, and you could just show up and print. And so my freshman year, that's what I did. I would show up, I would put in my wired headphones and go hang out in the darkroom for 12 hours on a Saturday and just print.
That sounds blissful.
It was amazing. And then my sophomore year of college, they shut it down.
Ugh.
And I was like,
Why?
wow, that sucks. So from there, I basically transitioned out of film entirely into digital. And I shot film only as a backup. I used to shoot sporting events for the university on Portra 800.
Oh, wow.
And like indoor sporting, like track and field. So
Oh,
I
man.
would, because like, your digital camera shits the bed or whatever, like needs to go out and get repaired. And I would just go shoot it on film because it was no big deal. But aside from that, I was all digital
Yeah.
for years. And I discovered Hidden Light almost by accident. They were having, how you get college kids into your building?
Oh, yeah.
Just to offer them food.
No, there you go.
These guys had a photo critique that they were hosting here, and there was free pizza. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go. I'm down. Give me that free pizza. And there were like
pizza.
30 students, and we would all hang out. It was mostly the photojournalism kids, which I was not. I was, I think they call it the commercial photography program. But
Okay.
I went and hung out and participated in the critique and got free pizza, and that's how I learned these guys existed.
Awesome. And then you were like, hey, I'm going to buy you guys.
Well, yeah. So I thought I was going to like go work in the corporate world and make a bunch of money, right?
Yeah.
And so I finished my college career. I have 2 degrees, one in marketing, which was like the safe
Excellent.
bet, and the other in photography. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go be a marketing guy.
Yeah.
And learned quickly that was not the answer for me. And so I actually started working at Hidden Light as the picture framing manager in 2013.
Okay.
So 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity a few years later in 2016 to purchase the business because the owners were done with it. Steven and Corey, who founded the place,
Yep.
they'd been doing it for 20 years and they were like, no, we're done. I'm over it. So I said, great, sell it to me. And they did.
Awesome.
So I bought in 2016. I finished buying the place because they let me do it slow
That's good.
in 2019. And here we are.
Awesome. Yeah, Hidden Light is an amazing place. You guys do some awesome prints from what I've seen. And not only are they just breathtaking with some of these shots, they're also pretty massive. And you're not doing just silver gelatin prints. You're actually doing a medium that has certain characteristics, and I don't even know how to explain what it is.
Let me
you
help.
guys do. I'll let you do it.
So Hidden Light started in the good old days as a lab that was doing both black and white silver gelatin by hand, like optical enlargements, as well as Cibachrome, which was the go-to color process for years. And when Ilford unceremoniously murdered that process by simply not making the stuff anymore,
Yeah.
Corey and Steven were like, well, shit, we need another print process. We need something else to do. So they moved into platinum palladium. Normal people do normal size platinum palladiums using negatives that they have shot in a large format camera. That was the way it was done. It's a contact print process, just like cyanotypes or other alt processes. So if you're like gung-ho about it, you shoot an 8x10 camera, you get an 8x10 negative, and thus you make an 8x10 print.
Okay.
If you're like regular people or you're learning how to work the process, you do 4x5. Some people will even do contact prints from their 120, right? Like small.
Right.
And there is technology now, and has been for a number of years, that allows us to make a negative from a digital file, right? So you can send me a photo that you shot on your big, fancy, medium format, whatever, or like from your phone. And I can print a contact negative and make any size print that I would like. For the longest time, 30 by 40 was the size. That was as big as we could go. And that's because essentially no one was making paper bigger than that. It was a paper size limitation.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay.
Arche, which is a mill in France, paper mill, were making 30-inch by 44-inch sheets. So that's as big as we went. And of course, that's how big we went. And in 2019, I think it was, I got contacted by a photographer named Tyler Shields. And he said this incredible thing to me. He said, What if money was no object? How big could you make a platinum print? And I was like, well, money's no object. We're only limited by the size of materials I can purchase. And at that time, Hahnemühle had started making a 50-inch roll of watercolor paper, specifically designed for platinum printing. So I could do 50 inches by as big as anybody was willing to pay for, but I had to make a new exposure unit. I had to learn how to coat that big. I had to make a new tray / sink. And I had to be able to make negatives that big. The negatives, the material that we make negatives on, only comes on a 44-inch roll. So my new size limitation is 44 inches by as long as I'm willing to deal with. So right now, it's 44 inches by 96 inches. That's the biggest I can make. 4 feet by 8 feet, essentially.
Awesome. That's huge.
It's really big and very expensive. It's like next level expensive. But I've gotten reasonably comfortable, and I've made several at 40 by 60. That's like a good size.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like the not, I wouldn't say it's the standard. That's like the big boy size now. Like if you really have collectors and are ready to like throw down for platinum prints, 40 by 60 is the size.
Awesome. That's massive.
I made myself a 40 by 90 for Christmas a few years ago. Just to like push, just to see how far I could go. And it turned out incredible, but it's so big and it's going to be so expensive to frame it that I haven't framed it yet.
I know a place you can go to get it framed.
I know, right? I own a picture framing shop, and at my cost, it's still going to be like $5 or $8 grand to frame this thing.
Oh.
Because I have to do everything all museum grade and make it really nice and real walnut, hand stained, like the whole. It's just the way that I am. But like, oof.
Yeah.
So that one, I'm gonna get there eventually.
Yeah.
I'm not there right now.
Do you even have a drawer that you store that? Oh, it's rolled up. Okay. I was going to say.
The great thing about platinums is they're really not that fragile. So I literally just rolled it up and I store it upright in a 5-gallon bucket.
That makes sense. Okay.
It's just standing there. That way it's accessible and I can pull it out when I have clients coming in and be like, how big can you make it? Because that's always, you make prints, It's not how big your image should go. It's how big can you possibly make it?
Exactly.
And I show them like, for 25 grand, I'll make you one that's 4 feet by 8 feet.
That's pretty penny. Oh man. So what's what's the biggest size that you guys have done there? I mean, well, I guess you said 40 by 60.
40 by 90 is the biggest platinum I've ever made.
What's something like that running right now?
25 grand.
25 grand. Oof. So you have the option of buying a new car or
right. Yeah.
A super awesome
40
print.
by 60, I think I have those at $12,000 right now. Regular people sizes are not that crazy. Like, let me iterate. Like 30 by 40s, 3,000. 16 by 20s, just under 1,000.
Right.
But an 8 by 10 starts at $200.
Okay. And obviously you're not doing, family portraits on platinum palladium. You're run of the mill daily stuff. You're doing stuff that has the purpose of being collected to justify the pricing there.
Right. It's photographers who have an established following, an established gallery representation. And this is like the cream of the crop of their work. They'll sell color prints to people or C prints or whatever for $10,000 or $15,000. But if you want to pay $70,000 or $80,000 or $90,000 for a print, these are the prints you buy.
Okay. That makes
sense. So even though
sense.
my price is, call it 10 grand, 12 grand for a 40 by 60, you can buy a Tyler Shields 40 by 60 for 75 grand. So he does just fine on the margins.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's all depends on your market and how you sell your work. Obviously it's not a 8 by 10 inkjet print or a print you got made over at Walgreens.
Right.
Completely
but it is
end of the spectrum. Other end of the spectrum.
If you have sufficient funds, it's similarly accessible. There are platinum labs in the world that have a huge order minimum, like $100,000 plus order minimum.
Oh, wow.
We don't have that. So if you just want to send me a photo of a pretty flower or a photo of your kids, or interestingly enough, photos of people's dead dogs, I do a lot. I don't know where
So
that one came
strange.
from, but like you lose a pet and it's like this really horrible experience.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I'll make you an 8x10 print of your pet, and you can like make a little shrine to them, and it's people go nuts for that.
That makes sense. For a
So there's
second, I
no
thought you meant
minimum.
For a second, I thought you meant dead dogs. Like that's kind of grotesque, but I mean,
Yeah,
the dog was
like,
alive.
it was alive when the picture was taken.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a certain market for that sort of stuff, but I guess.
And
But,
the other one of
yeah.
the other important things is that we let people come to the lab and hang out. So like
Okay.
when you come and get a print
Yeah.
made with me, you know, you'll bring your file up, we'll work on it together. You get to watch me coat the paper and participate in the process. And in the olden days, that was not a thing. You couldn't go behind the counter, let alone into
Right.
the dark room of any lab. And we love having photographers in with us because it makes our lives so much easier.
Oh yeah, it makes those judgment calls and certain creative things that you guys do a little easier with the little advice from the photographer, I guess.
Right. And it's like if the print comes out too dark, we make a new one and we make it lighter. Like, yeah, if you're standing right there, it's really easy for us to judge that.
So you have to go through the process of pretty much getting that image in as a digital file, and then you have to calibrate to get that exposure just right to where that image pops the way that the photographer wants that, correct?
Exactly. And there's a little wiggle, like just due to the nature of the process, it's not very high contrast, blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, I can give you a really good idea of what it's going to look like in soft proof. And then we can kind of play with how we want it to look in the final print. And if it doesn't look right, we make another one.
Okay. That's awesome. That's one of these days. One of these days I'll get my own work printed. I got to get a good shot first.
Yes, let's do it. I'm into it.
So what's the I don't even know what question to ask you. There's just so many things that I could ask right now. I don't know, kind of drawing a blank here. So what would you say? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I should probably mention that platinum's not all we do.
Right.
We do silver gelatins as well from digital or from negative. We do cyanotypes. We can do calotypes, like all of the alt process, darkroom, and standard silver gelatin stuff. Like that's the print side of things. When we do all of that, platinum's just like my baby, and so it's the one that I get most excited about, and it's also really rare, and so it's easy to talk about. But we do more than that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, it would make sense. So not only do you guys do platinum palladium, like you're saying, you do a bunch of different things. You're a framing department and a camera shop. So I've been kind of curious what the scene is like for photography up there in Flagstaff. I know there's obviously changes going on across the world with the price of film going up. And I've seen some of your posts
crazy.
busy.
The college kids who are getting into film don't seem to care what it costs. It doesn't matter to them. Coming from a land of like, monthly subscriptions and everything costs, you don't get to own anything. Like, the price of Portra is doing things. And it doesn't seem to matter. Like, I sell film as fast as I can buy it. Faster, usually.
Yeah.
Because getting a hold of it, like as a very small shop, is hard.
Oh, I bet.
I'm having to like buy from other labs who are buying from bigger labs who are buying from the distributors.
Oh, geez. I didn't realize that was that much of a challenge.
Yeah, like for a while there, especially while Kodak was finally starting to figure out like, okay, this is happening. We need to ramp up production. We would wait 6 or 8 months to get Portra.
Oh, wow.
And my current lead time on any Fuji films is more than 4 to 6 months.
Oh,
like I ordered film in October from Fuji that I'm still waiting on.
Oh man, that's like
it's July.
It's like waiting. It's like you could have a kid before that time.
Yeah, it's
just
insane. About. I don't understand it. I mean, I'm small potatoes, right? So sure, my orders are not huge, They might pay attention more to larger orders. I don't know. But it's like, okay, well, we'll get what film we can. And lucky us that we have the opportunity. And so the students, it's almost all students
Wow.
who are getting into film, and they're just stoked on it. They're stoked on the delayed gratification. They like the old cameras with the sex appeal.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the changes go on. I know we've had quite a few people who I've personally I've connected with over the years, and a lot of the people who used to shoot have kind of cut back on their shooting, and I guess the appeal to them has kind of changed over time. They already had that experience, so obviously with colleges with new turnover with students, it's always a fresh experience for every year that you get new students in that are want to participate in this. So
yeah, a lot of the working pros that were shooting film, a lot of them were shooting large format, right? Like if you wanted nearly grainless, high quality image, you were shooting large format slide film. That's what you did. And it cost you $100 a sheet between the film, the processing, and the scan to even just see
right.
if the image you shot was any good. And if it was good, then you could print it and sell it for lots of money. And all those guys have moved to medium format digital now. They're all on Phase 1 or Fuji GFX.
True.
Because they don't want to carry around 40 pounds of camera gear.
Oh, yeah.
And have to deal with the uncertainties of lab processing and everything else. They just want to shoot and go, yep, that's the one.
Oh, yeah. Yep. It's instant, boom, it's there. They already know the process
it's become
to get a shot.
A hobbyist experience film.
Yeah.
By and large. Of course, there are still working pros shooting entirely analog.
Yeah.
But they're fewer and further between.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting to see the changes, but we've been fortunate to have both younger and older people show interest, and somewhat recently we've connected with Arizona Photography Alliance and trying to get some more of the younger crowd in with them to share this interest in film photography. Most of that group still dabbles with film, which is awesome. They're an older generation. But the transition of film is always an interesting thing to observe. Obviously, I still shoot film. You're still shooting film. Got to keep it alive the way we can. So
it's more fun.
Yeah, it is
for me. Like the visceral experience of shooting film. Like results be damned. Okay, let's just pretend for a second I don't give a damn about what the picture looks like.
True.
Shooting a film camera with the limitations of not knowing what's happening and having to pre-visualize and slow things down enough that you're not just throwing away money because it costs $1 a frame to shoot 35 millimeter. It's like sweet. Like I'm into that. I like that it slows me down, that I'm not quite sure what I'm getting, and that there's a little bit of je ne sais quoi, like,
yeah,
I enjoy the process of shooting that. And what I'll do sometimes is, I have endless access to film and processing. I'll just like make a stack of 10 or 15 or 20 rolls. And whenever we have a light film processing week, I'll put my film in that week's process. And sometimes it's like some of this stuff is old and I have no idea what's on it, and I don't remember shooting it at all.
Oh yeah.
And I love getting the scans and being like, oh, that actually turned out really cool. Yeah.
I've done that plenty in the lab as well. That's this is a roll I shot. I have no idea when I got it and shot it, and boom, it was from when we took this trip somewhere, and it's always a treat seeing those shots.
Yeah. I started this year by attempting to shoot a roll a day, which, aside from being ridiculously expensive, like I completely ran out of things to shoot by March. I was like, I don't do enough in my everyday life to take 36 pictures a day that aren't just the same shot endlessly.
There's probably a lot of moose on there.
There's a lot of moose photos. There's a lot of photos of my wife, Kristen. There's some photos from around the shop, especially because winter up here, especially this last winter,
Oh yeah.
there was nothing to do. Like you were stuck inside. It was cold. We had the biggest winter we've had since 1949. It was totally nuts.
Oh yeah.
So on the one hand, like, okay, my goal for the day is to kill a roll of HP5 because that's my shtick. That was my winter black and white. It just feels good. But by March, I was like, okay, I'm done now. I got nothing more to shoot. I hate photography. I never want to pick up a camera again.
It ebbs and flows. You get that. I totally understand that.
Yeah, I took April just off mostly.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't
like
blame
I think I shot a couple of events in April that like I almost made the cut, like in aggregate.
Yeah.
But since then, it's just like, no, I'm going to allow myself enough film to shoot whatever it is that I want to shoot. But I'm not going to like force myself to slam through a roll in a day because it just got like ridiculous.
Yeah. I was considering the same thing and shooting a roll a week or a frame a day or something like that. And started off pretty strong. I did a portrait project, but I still have yet to scan all of that in. And that was back in January that I shot it. So, and it's been developed. Our bottleneck, or at least my bottleneck, is scanning. Just because my process here is a little slow. I use a flatbed scanner, and I'll let you give your 2 cents on that. I know that you don't do flatbed.
Okay. I respect the shit out of people who use a flatbed, and if I was shooting film for myself, a $200 flatbed, which is what you used to be able to get those V600s for,
Yep.
and a glass of wine is the answer,
Yes.
right? Like just hang out, scan a roll or two in the evening while you're watching Netflix.
Yep.
If you have to scan 200 rolls a week, there is no way that is going to happen.
No, definitely not.
So we switched. So when we started color film processing in 2019 because there was no one in Flagstaff doing it. People were still sending their film to Walgreens. And, you know, it takes 6 weeks and you don't get your negatives back. So I was like, okay, we can do this. We have the equipment already. We just have to buy different chemistry. And we started doing the same thing that you do, is doing the flatbeds. And it was just so painful.
Very.
So we have switched to a copy stand setup. We scan everything with a Sony A7R4. Which is 61 megapixels, and we run it through the negative supply, their full suite of products.
Yep.
And it was so expensive to set up.
Yeah.
Even as a dealer, like negative supply is not cheap. But damn, it's fast. I can do a roll in under a minute.
Yeah.
Which means my 100 to 200 rolls in a week goes very fast.
Yeah, definitely quicker than a flatbed, which takes about a half an hour a roll.
On a really good day, I was doing 20 minutes a roll for 35 on the flatbed. Oof. And that's just not sustainable.
No, definitely not for a lab. Your personal scans, no biggie. And that's definitely one of the scanners that I recommend for people who are starting out with doing film at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a better scanner than you would get with some of these ones that are around $100 or less, which are, you know, these little preview scanners. That's pretty much what I call it. I think there's a handful out there, and you pretty much just slide your film through. It's illuminated with the little camera that snaps a photo. And anytime I see somebody asking about those, I'm like, no, don't bother.
Pass. Your phone is better than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's like if you're looking for preview scans or you want to slam something on Instagram real quick, like use your phone.
Oh, yeah. And Cinestill's got a really beautiful... The Cinestill app is great. Or the filters, rather, that are on Instagram.
Yeah, those are awesome. 10 out of 10 recommend. Like, if you want to do it quick and dirty, like that's a great way to do it. And if you want to do it really nice, you use a flatbed.
Yep.
And if you want to do it nice and fast and expensive, you do a copy stand.
Sure. If you want to do it really slow, really, really nice, and really expensive, you can go drum scan. So,
you know, I've played with several Well, I don't know. Would you consider like the Hasselblad slash what's the other name for that same object? It's not Icon. It's
Heidelberg?
something like that.
Heidelberg? I think it's Heidelberg.
Those are the big, the Tangos. Those are
bigger.
the big drum scanners. But
Yeah.
Hasselblad put out one that would do up to 4x5, I think, or 5x7. We played with a couple of those. Meh. But the Heidelbergs, those are incredible.
Okay.
I know a guy. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, you're good. No, I was just gonna say the company that I work at has Heidelberg, and we're actually having some issues with ours, and we're contemplating whether we want to bother with buying a new one or if we want to, discontinue that service, because they are kind of expensive units to. You don't just buy a unit and make back your money in a week.
No, and there's like 2 guys on Earth who work on them.
True.
Like, you have to like fly the dude in and pay for all of his expenses, and like, holy moly.
Yeah.
So one of the guys I know who does drum scanning did an evaluation just for himself, right? Like which film formats are worth the drum scan in terms of time, suffering, money, and which ones are maybe less worth it. And he said, like, up to 6x6, maybe don't worry about it. But past 6x6, it might be worth doing a drum scan. And certainly 4x5 and up.
That's my consensus too, at least from the stuff that I've seen come through our shop. It really makes no sense, especially going 35 to do all that work for such a tiny frame that you can easily get a better scan with a digital camera or a flatbed scanner, or decent enough rather for the results that you get. But yeah, 4x5 and up is pretty much what I would recommend for if you really want to get involved with that. There's actually a company out in Midwest called AGX, I think, and they charge about $10 a frame currently for drum scanning, which is insanely cheap. Not sure exactly what that price entails, but I don't know if there's a minimum or if there's, that's the low resolution, but that's not a bad price. But some of those scanning services end up jumping up to, I don't know, $150, $200 a scan. So
it's easy for like an 8x10 drum scan to just get expensive fast.
Oh yeah. Well, you definitely want good results with that. I mean, it's a larger image. Plus, I could only imagine that the file size would be probably a couple gigabytes, potentially in some cases.
Yeah, I think a lot of these companies that are doing drum scans will charge you by the file size.
Yeah.
So like if you want the maximum the Heidelberg output, it's a couple $100 a frame.
Yeah.
I spent all of 2021 photographing exclusively on 8x10, which was a really fun project for me. And I was like, okay, so here's what I'll do. I'll scan it all myself quick and dirty on the copy stand.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that I just gotta have crazy resolution, I will send it out and get it drum scanned. Because I know a guy, Michael Strickland in Kansas, excellent work. I have yet to reach the limit of one of those files to the point where it's like, yeah, I need to have this drum scanned. Like the Sony does a good enough job for the size prints that I'm making that it doesn't matter.
True.
Which is like, cool. Like I'm not going to make a 40x60 from one of these yet.
Eventually.
Maybe eventually. But like part of the reason I did that project is I'd never spent a lot of time with large format, so I wanted to really dive in. And I also wanted to make tiny little baby prints for myself. So I shot 8x10 and I made 8x10 contact prints all year of my work.
Oh man.
Because I spend most of my time making 20x30s and 30x40s and 40x60s for my customers. And it's like, small prints is fun. It's like an enjoyable experience. Let's do more of that.
Oh, absolutely. So when you do contact prints, do you, in your shooting process, do you use like, what's the name of that process? I'm drawing a blank here. The zone system or any sort of process when you shoot to make sure that you're getting your density just right since you're contact printing?
It took me a while to kind of figure out the recipe that I wanted to use for that. And where I'd landed, and I'm sure this will be controversial with all of the technical minded humans, so forgive me now, technical people. I would essentially meter for the shadows and shoot.
Okay.
Don't worry about the rest. It doesn't matter. I was shooting low speed film, very high contrast film, typically orthochromatic film.
Okay.
Because I've found that lends itself very well to high contrast negatives, which you need for the platinum process, which is how I was printing all this.
Makes
and
sense.
it was like, I'm just going to find the darkest part of the scene, meter for that, and shoot right there.
Wow. Okay.
And it worked beautifully. My platinum exposures from those negatives still varied, right? Because sometimes I'm shooting a really high contrast scene and I just totally ruined the sky. And that happens.
Right.
But also, like, at some point, especially with platinum, you could just push more light through it. The shadows don't reverse. So if you want to just keep throwing light at the damn thing, it'll work fine.
Okay.
You know, I've printed we call them bulletproof negatives. They're just so dark you can't even look through them. That are 25, 30-minute platinum exposures, and they turn out fine. And I've printed negatives that are so thin that you almost can't see there's an image at a minute and a half, and they look also mostly fine.
Awesome.
Like, the amount of latitude you have with negative film is like, screw it.
Oh yeah.
Give it a little more light.
As long as you can always overexpose with your shots, which is the opposite of digital, which is an interesting thing, because digital you don't want to max out and then peak and blow out all your highlights. Instead, you want to make sure you're underneath and you're, as far as your shadow detail is concerned, you're trying to get that as well. But
and that's the thing we end up teaching the college kids that are coming from a land of all digital is like, don't under any circumstances underexpose like you're used to. Take your meter reading and give it a stop more than that.
Yep.
We have a YouTube channel at Hidden Light LLC, and I did a bunch of videos showing my 8x10 process because I had to justify it somehow.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And you see me out there like, okay, so here's my meter reading, here's the filter, here's what I've got set up, and you see me open the shutter. And I'm, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, a little bit more Mississippi, maybe a little bit. Okay, now I'm done. And it turned out fine.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in it for the technical aspect of exposures. I was in it to like play with 8x10, enjoy the experience of really slowing down and make little baby prints. And very few frames were ruined from a just sheer exposure standpoint. I ruined plenty with light film holders that leaked, with double exposing sheets of film, straight up not exposing sheets of film, the shutter sticking. Like, I made all the large format mistakes, which is part of the process. I wanted to learn, like, when my customers come in and they're talking about large format being so painful, what are they really talking about? Like, it can't be that bad. It is that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know when I started out shooting 4x5, it was the struggle of, did I shoot this or did I not shoot this? And looking at the holder going, I didn't flip the dark slide. And so now I don't know if it was shot or not. So now it's a gamble if you want to take another shot and potentially double expose and ruin it, or not take a shot and save one shot and lose the other because you don't remember which side was which. So,
right.
And so you're just like, it's a huge gamble. It's definitely, you have to slow down your process with that. Or just, run and gun and try blasting through. But, 4x5 and 8x10, larger format starts to add up a bit, but
I ended up being really thankful that we have the YouTube stuff that we were recording for, because I was recording, or someone was recording what was happening. So if I was like, oh shit, did I already shoot holder 6? And I'd be like, let's go back and check the footage. And it's like, oh, I did shoot 6. Shit, I got to flip this holder and shoot 7.
So you got to have a spotter and a video spotter. That's going to be the future of AI. Is is
or even just
assistant.
like audio recording. Like, you just like doing a voice memo and just speak out loud all the things that happen. I've gotten in the habit of doing that for recording videos. I was like, okay, so now I got to load the holder and blah, 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 and open the shutter and close the shutter and test the shutter. And this is frame 6 at f6 at 100th of a second or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
And then I have those notes. I don't have to write them down. I just have to go find in the recording of that session what was happening. I found that to be really useful.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because, like, I wanted to be old school, dude. I bought a notebook and I brought along a pencil, not even a pen. And I was like, okay. And I started writing it all down, and then I would get in a hurry, and then I wouldn't be able to read my own writing. So I couldn't hang. So the voice memo or video really helped with that.
Yeah. Now that's a good direction to go in. You're still documenting it, so.
Right. Like, as long as you have a way to go back and check, like, here's what the meter says, here's what I shot it at, this is why it's ruined, because you spent $10 on the sheet of film and then $10 getting it processed. Like, I'd like to know what I screwed up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. My friend David Venezia, which I've mentioned a lot, he's kind of a crazy dude. He's running his own little dark room up in Salt Lake City. And he actually is getting into 8x10, and he's doing a lot of slide now. And he bought 2 boxes. He's loving it. But he's, teasing at going larger and larger. Yeah, what would you say the largest that do you want to go larger than 8x10?
Okay, so let's talk. Yes. But caveat. I want to go full camera obscura.
Okay.
Paper negatives.
Okay.
I have no desire to carry around and use an 11x14, 16x20, 20x24, or 12x20 camera. I've played with all of those sizes. They're ridiculous. They're so big, I cannot hang. But a camera obscura, where it's like, okay, I'm in literally a building, and I'm going to tape everything up, put a lens where one of the windows goes or through a door.
Right.
And take a 40-inch roll of paper and tape it to the wall and make a negative. That I'm into.
Okay.
I set up a camera obscura here for one of the students. I was teaching at NAU, and one of my classes is like, okay, intro to photography. Let's talk about how photography started. And no one had ever heard of a camera obscura. And I was like, screw that. We are building one. And it is the most fun thing to hang out in a camera obscura and just watch the world go by upside down and backwards.
Oh, yeah.
Especially like in a high traffic area where there's literally people walking by the lens.
Yeah.
So cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's I'm jonesing for really big silver gelatins right now. I don't understand where this is coming. It's it's kind of like there are a couple of sources of inspiration for this. One was Helmut Newton, because oh my god, Newton and Avedon, like their giant prints, amazing.
Yeah.
There's also Ian Reuter, who's mostly known for his wet plate collodion stuff.
Okay.
Check him out. If you haven't heard of him, stop what you're doing, stop the car, pull over to the side of the road. Just kidding. But it's incredible. Ian,
Okay.
Ruhter. He was shooting the biggest wet plates in the world. And he was doing them in Slab City, which is this incredible community in California, I think.
Yep.
And yeah, just a totally bonkers project. And that was like, oh yeah, I want to try this.
Oh, yeah.
There's also a guy whose name I don't know, and maybe we can look it up and you can put it in the show notes. But he's doing these projects mostly back east, like New York, where he'll set up a huge camera obscura and have a workshop where it's like, okay, we're going to photograph, say, the New York skyline from Jersey.
Yeah.
From the inside of one of these buildings, and they just make these massive, ridiculous prints using silver gelatin paper negatives. And then they contact print that to a silver gelatin paper and they expose it using the flashlights on their phones. It
What?
is the coolest. I can't get over how cool this is. That there's like 8 of them, or however many
Yeah.
people it takes to like cover this. And he's like, okay, everybody, it's 30 seconds. Hold your phone 18 inches above the paper and just wave it around as randomly as you'd like for the time that I count off for you. And they get these insane prints. We'll look it up and
Yeah.
so that people can
Yeah.
check it out, because
Yeah, we'll add that
this
in.
is like, I wouldn't say it's an obsession, but it's like something I really want to try.
Oh, absolutely. Have you been to the Camera Obscura in California, just south of San Francisco?
No.
You got to go out there at some point. It's a very beautiful one.
Is it like an installation piece that's permanent?
It's permanent. It's been there since I don't know, the 40s, I think. It's in San Francisco, so just south of the Golden Gate Bridge. Not just
Cool.
south. It's a little bit south, but it's
Sure.
pretty awesome. You go inside. It's actually near the baths, and so on the edge of the beach there, and up top is the mirror and lens setup, and it's constantly rotating. And so it's looking out into the ocean, onto the shore.
Cool.
And you go inside and you pay a little fee of like $5, which was more than worth it. And you get to see this projection from outside. And obviously, stormy days, they don't have it open. And occasionally, when they don't have anybody to man it, it's not open. But a really awesome place to go check out. But yeah.
I'm into that, dude. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we tell everybody who takes an intro class with us, is that that's the initial discovery of photography. It didn't start with capturing the image; it started with observing the image and being able to see that. So, I mentioned in my previous podcast with Silver and Cedar, who they do tintypes, that we would collab on possibly doing a really large tintype. So hopefully we make some progress there. And then if you are in need of a lens, maybe we can coordinate something and I can set you up with a giant lens. I have a 14-inch lens, which needs some love. 14-inch would be the distance from the back of the lens to where the paper focus is. So where your focus would be. So I don't know what that translates into. I think it's close to 24 inches. But in reality, it makes a 1-to-1 square, 48-inch square. So you could have a portrait of yourself, 100% life size, 48 by 48. So
I'm into that. We have some
insane.
really weird old lenses too that I'd like to use for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. Let's go big 2020, end of 2023, whatever it is. 2024. Let's just go big.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, like an accomplishment. Once you get that print, you get to see it and go, this is awesome.
We should do it instead of against tin. We should do it on glass and then make a platinum print from that negative. That'd
be badass.
We did the reverse of that. We took a digital file and made ambrotypes, so just wet plate collodion on glass from a digital file. But now I want to go like big glass plate to platinum.
Oof, that'll be interesting.
That'll be fun.
Do you follow Giles Clement? I think is his name. He's an interesting guy. He shot a lot of portraits of celebrities.
Incredible portraits. Oh my god.
He's got one of Regina Spektor, and I'm just blown away by it. And there's a few other people he shot. I'm just like, wow. And these are all on glass. So, and it's a really fun way he presents it, where it's suspended and you see it illuminated. So it's in a dark room, and he has the subject hold the sheet. And I'm curious how large you can really go on glass before it becomes a hazard.
Well, Ian Reuter was doing those plates, and he was doing them like 40 by 60, 60 by 50. He had to temper the glass. He must have had to use tempered glass. They're enormous. So
absolutely.
if you hate yourself enough, you can go really big. But
Yeah.
I think
Painful.
Clement's using like 20 by 24. Does that feel right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
It's a big ass negative. They're gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely.
His Instagram is like a great place to hang out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's an interesting dude. I've been watching him do his stuff for a while. But yeah, it's just amazing what you can do with these older processes. Still, I don't know. Digital to me is still boring. I don't know what's so.
Digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. It's become like too sharp now.
Yeah.
Haters don't at me, but like, it's so clinical.
Yeah.
With modern lenses, all the stuff that Fuji and Sony are coming out with, it's so sharp. It's too sharp. I like the sex appeal of the older lenses where it wasn't perfect. There was some softness around the edge. There was a feeling you get with old glass that you just straight up can't on like super modern, high resolving stuff.
So it leaves your imagination open to interpreting the photo when it doesn't have the fidelity that digital has, and you can appreciate the shots a little differently, I guess.
Yeah, we do a photo challenge kind of sort of monthly on our YouTube channel, and the photo challenge we're doing this month is long exposure, no tripod.
Ouch.
So the photos are gonna be soft. They're gonna be blurry. They're gonna have, and that's part of the point. Is that if you look at like Rodrigo Moya is an excellent example. A lot of the old masters, right? They would take pictures and they weren't tack sharp, and they didn't have to be, because they still conveyed a feeling. Especially like you're talking about tintypes when you're shooting at ISO 1.
Oh yeah.
And you don't have like ungodly amounts of strobe power at your disposal. Like
True.
It's a 2-second exposure and people move.
Yeah.
It's not going to be tack sharp, and that's okay because it's still gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely. There's some shots that I've seen that just that little bit of blur to it. It adds a bit to that shot. That feel. So it's like a dream state. Sort of.
I'm into that stuff, man. Like, bring on the imperfections and take your tack sharp, perfectly. I don't even know the words for perfect lenses, but take them away because I don't want them unless I'm reproducing something.
True.
Like if I'm scanning film, like I'll take the Sony, the 90mm 2.8 macro from Sony. It's flawless. It's incredible. Yeah. I want that for that purpose, but I would not want to take your portrait with it because it's too sharp.
True. I love the irony there. It's just funny. I appreciate it, but it makes sense too. Though you want a good, you want to be able to copy it over and create a file. And some of these softer lenses, you just lose that detail unless you're taking a picture, and that's the style you're going for. So,
yeah, it gets to the point like when you're scanning film, I want the lens that I'm scanning the film with to out-resolve the lens that I use to shoot the film.
True.
The lens that I expose the film with gives me the sex appeal. It gives me the vibes.
Oh, yeah.
If you're into that sort of language. But the lens that you're scanning the film with should be perfect and corrected and not get in the way. It should not participate in the process.
Exactly. It shouldn't take away from what you accomplish. So,
right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you guys also have a gallery that you opened somewhat recently. I think to me that's kind of
during COVID. Thing. Yeah.
And you guys do stuff.
We had an awesome tattoo shop next door, and then COVID happened and they shut down, which is good for my wallet because I would come over during lunch breaks and get tattooed. But we took over this space and put in a gallery of all of our clients' work. So people who we print and frame for, sometimes they'll allow us to make additional copies of those prints and put them up on the walls. So we did that for a couple of years. I still have a small selection up that we rotate through. But right now I've turned half of that space into a photo studio for me to use or for people to rent, because there's really no rental photo studios up here. Like Phoenix, you guys have the goods.
Oh yeah.
There's so many cool studio spaces down there, but up here there's like the university, and that's essentially it. So we put in a studio so that I could shoot stuff during the winter when I didn't want to be outdoors, and it's turned into like a total nightmare. So we're currently in the process of like cleaning everything up and moving all this stuff and making it usable again. But yeah, so we've got the gallery, which is called Monochrome Gallery. It's all black and white work, and it's basically we represent all of the clients that I print for who are willing to let me represent them.
That's awesome.
And so we do the printing for them, the framing for them, and we just, put them up for people. A lot of these prints, dude, they'll go from my lab to someone's third home where the cleaning crew sees it more than the owners. And that just feels weird to me. So that was like the impetus for us to put up the gallery, is like, I want people to see this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Come and look at it. Get your nose up in it. Because photographers, you can always tell a photographer in a gallery because they don't stand 5 feet away from a large print and go, oh, wow, that speaks to me. They get their nose 6 inches from the glass and go, I wonder what aperture this was taken at.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
were the settings?
I'm always looking at stuff close up. I'm like, what? How is this done? Is this fiber? Is this RC? Is this, is this watercolor, inkjet, giclée, as they call it? Giclée.
There's a photographer here.
Gum.
I know, right? There's a photographer here called Shane Knight. Excellent work. And he's the one who pointed out to me that you can always tell a photographer because of how close they get to your print. And the instant someone gets 6 inches from your print, they're not going to buy anything and you can ignore them. Because photographers don't buy photography.
True.
I mean, you do. You bought one of my prints. Thank you for that, by the way.
It sits up on my wall and I see it every day.
I love that. But like by and large, photographers aren't buying. Photographers are looking and being like, oh, I could do that better.
True. Yeah, I think it's funny. I've talked to a few people and they're like, why buy a print when I can go take the same picture? And you see that on Instagram where everybody takes the same picture and posts it. So it's a different type of person who's going to buy a photo print.
Yeah, like you can tell those people when they walk in too, because they stand there and they look at it and they appreciate it and they kind of look at it from a couple of different angles, and they'll do like most of the gallery and then they'll come back and look at the attribution card and understand how much it costs and who made it.
Yeah.
Those are the people you pay attention to in your gallery because they're going to buy.
True. Makes
things
sense.
you learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's awesome that you guys have a gallery and obviously a photo studio now. Sounds like Flagstaff definitely needs it.
Yeah.
I mean,
camera gear sales. We've been buying and selling cameras. Like the whole staff did it for fun. And we were finally like, we should probably just do this for like everyone who wants to get into shooting film. So now that's part of that game too.
That's awesome.
So
I've been
buying
looking at
stuff that needs a new home.
Oh yeah. I've been looking at some of the stuff that you guys have been posting up and I'm like, man, why are you guys like 2.5 hours away? I would totally drive up there and grab it. But do I really
I can
need...
ship worldwide.
True.
I've shipped a lot of cameras all over the place. Like it's crazy. And we're looking at my entire day tomorrow, as a matter of fact, will be me going through new possible gear acquisitions. There's awesome. A bunch of gear sitting here that someone's like, will you buy this for me? And I'm like, I don't know. I got to go through it and test it and see if it works and see what it's worth. And so there's like a room full of gear that just is waiting for someone to say yes to the price that I give them.
Fair enough. Yeah, it sounds like you got a busy day tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's like a mellow kind of day. Like hopefully I won't have to be doing too much and going too crazy. I can just sit down with the laptop and research the cameras, test the cameras. I'm into slow days like that where I don't have to like work.
Right.
Sometimes sometimes like I just did a series of 50 8x10 prints for a client, and that's like days of just work, just pounding out prints. And some days it's nice to just sit on a couch and look at pretty cameras.
And tomorrow's Friday.
Although honestly, when you own the business, like there's no such thing as Friday.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I'm by and large like the lead, take care of anything that broke guy, the troubleshooter, sometimes the janitor. I work for the longest time. I was doing 6-day weeks, and I've finally got it down to 5 days a week, like a regular person.
Yeah.
But it's like, if something pops up, like, yeah, I'll be in on Sunday.
Yep.
That's life.
When you own a business, you're married to it.
Yeah, totally. You just do it. Whatever it is, you just do it.
Yeah. It'd be different if we didn't like film and photography.
It would be. It would be awful, I think, if we didn't love it. Like, to do a job like this and make this little money and and not just love it. Like, one of the things we say around here is it beats having a real job. Because we get to play with cameras and talk with photographers and learn new things all the time and experiment and play and print. And, that's all I wanted when I went to college.
Yeah.
I wanted to meet cool people, play with fun cameras, and make a bunch of prints. And I'm still doing it.
You're living the life.
Yeah, most days. Absolutely.
Well, awesome. We do have a couple questions that came up when we asked on Instagram.
Cool.
So we'll do our questions from the community. So I've got 2 questions for you. One is, what are some of the steps clients should take when preparing for a platinum palladium print? And this comes from Jordan VS Gravity on Instagram.
There's an easy way and a less easy way. The easy way is check out the video I made about this on my YouTube channel. The less easy way is...
We'll link that over to you guys.
Link that down below. Shameless plug. Honestly, the first part is evaluating the image. Will this look good in platinum? And by and large, the answer is if it looks good in black and white, and the prevailing theme of the image is not deep, crushing blacks, it's going to look great in platinum. Okay. From there, all I want is the full resolution file as a 16-bit TIFF.
Boom.
That's it. Like, get it looking the way that you want the print to look. Send it to me as a 16-bit TIFF. Ta-da!
Simple enough.
There's a lot of people that like to resize their stuff or export as weird file sizes, or they're used to online labs that only take 8-bit JPEGs, and it's like, no. Send me your 2.5 gigabyte file with all of your layers. That's fine. Like, if it's so big that it doesn't export as a TIFF, that's fine too. Send it to me as a PSB. Like, I don't care.
Right.
But I want the biggest possible version of the file in its native form. Like, don't upscale your iPhone photos to be 2 gigs. That's silly. Just give it to me at whatever native is, because there's a lot that goes on our end, and I want the most detail to work with so that the gradients don't start falling apart and, whatever. These printers will resolve a huge amount of detail. Okay. So I want all of it. So get the file looking the way you want it to look. Export it to me, Matt at hiddenlightllc.com, as a 16-bit TIFF, and I'll do the rest. Oh, and maybe shoot me an email and say, hey, I want to make a platinum.
Okay. And as far as the process that you guys have in the lab, you go about making a good judgment on your adjustments that you have to make. You make your transparency that you use to make the print, and then you go through the process of making it come to life.
Yeah, there's really only a couple of questions that I will typically ask. I need to know how warm you want the print to look, because there is a sliding scale of warmth in platinum. You can have it like near sepia in warmth, or you can have it closer to neutral. So I want to know where you want that to sit, and then I will send you soft proofs and be like, this is what it's going to look like. Is this about what you're thinking? And you'll say yes, and I'll say, great, it'll look like this but different, because platinum has there's a feeling to it, and it has to do with the way that the print is made. Instead of light passing through layers of pigment to hit the base and then come back at you like a standard giclée print does, or metal print, or any of these other styles of prints that people are used to, the light just hits the paper and bounces right off. We're not going through layers of stuff. And so it feels different. It glows in a different way. So it's like, I try to set your expectations. Like, it's not going to look exactly like the screen, but it's going to look close and it's going to look better.
Fair enough. Okay. Simple enough, it sounds like. And your introductory size, or most basic size, would be?
The smallest size we offer is an 8x10. So 8x10 or smaller is $200.
Okay. Simple enough. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, and you can come hang out with me and watch me do it and participate in the process, or you can just say, make me the damn print. And I'll say, right away.
You got it.
Give me 3 weeks. And the turnaround is typically longer than like getting prints done at Walgreens. Like, it takes a while.
Oh yeah, it's a process, and it's done by somebody who knows what they're doing, as opposed to a machine that probably isn't calibrated properly at Walgreens.
Yeah, totally.
Or somebody who's paid minimum wage, who has no understanding of that whole process. But,
100%.
Yep. So our other question comes from Matthew Finn on Instagram. What makes you want to shoot your camera compared to others? And I guess I'm not exactly sure how to interpret that question, but I would say, what makes you want to shoot the camera?
Matthew Finn follows me. He
yeah,
and I think I know what he's talking about. So, because I own a camera store, I have access to a nearly unlimited supply of cameras, which is like paralysis by complete overwhelming, like not understanding which one to use. So a number of years ago, I decided to start using one camera per year.
Okay.
I'll pick up one camera and I'm only going to shoot that camera for the year. It lets me do a deep dive into any specific either size or brand or whatever. And I like that. I like a deep dive rather than like a surface level skim. So, you obviously you want to shoot certain cameras for certain projects more than maybe some other ones. But this year I'm shooting a Nikon F6 as my main camera because it's the opposite. Well, not quite the opposite, but very nearly the opposite of an 8x10. It's fast. It's easy. I can shoot all different kinds of film in it. And I don't have to turn my brain on. I leave it in aperture priority and shoot.
Simple enough.
Yeah, it's all about what you're into. Like, some years I want to slow down and hate myself and shoot 8x10. Some years I want to kind of go the medium route and shoot. I spent a year shooting Hasselblad, which I'll never do again. And I did not love the Hasselblad experience. It broke a lot of cameras. I'm hard on gear. The great thing about these Nikons is that they're just bulletproof. Just use the shit out of it and it's fine. Like, short of submerging the camera, I can pretty much do anything I want to these things.
Yeah, they're pretty much bulletproof.
Yeah, the thing I'm looking for this year in my photography is more candid moments, which means I have to be able to not quite shoot from the hip, but not shoot from the hip. Like, just point and click and not have to think so much about it. So that means 35 millimeter because it's cheap, and that means being able to just rock and roll.
Okay.
So the camera makes all the decisions for me, and that's what I'm aiming for right now in my work, is like a little less of the tripod, spend 40 minutes to make one picture, and a little more of just snap all the little moments in life and the people that I hang out with and whatever else. Like, I'm trying to use a 35 millimeter camera the same way most people use their phone. If I wanted to commemorate this moment, actually, you know what? Hold on, give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the sake of argument, let's just say if I wanted to commemorate this moment, I would take my camera, and I've just got this beautiful new desk, which of course you can't see because you're in a podcast, but it's gorgeous. And if I wanted to commemorate this moment, I would just take out the f6 and drop the aperture way down to f3.5 and hold my breath because it's not very bright in here. Oh, those are slow. Did you hear that?
I
Damn. You probably couldn't, but the people in the podcast, I'm sure could. Here, we'll do one real close just for the podcasters. Here we go.
Yep.
2 frames. That'll actually be great for my photo challenge.
There you go.
But it's just like, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at this cool mic setup we've got going on. I've got all these gorgeous lights on, and I want to like capture the moment.
Yeah.
And even with the film that's in this camera right now, which is Fuji 200 that I'm pushing 2 stops, there's nowhere near enough light. So I am going to have to just go ahead and use my phone. But, and even my phone says this is a 1 second exposure.
Of course.
Which is fine. That's cool. But so Matthew Finn, that's what makes me want to shoot these cameras right now is the way that I'm trying to capture and what I'm trying to output from my process right now is very different than what it's been in past years. I'm not trying to shoot for like a fine art, make a 40 by 60 inch print. I'm trying to shoot to capture memories for me of just the moments in life that I think are really special.
Yeah. I took a trip to Missouri and was trying to decide what to bring. And I ended up grabbing a 35 millimeter Canon T2 with a simple lens. And that thing shoots up to 1/8,000th of a second, I believe. And you can blast out 6 shots in a second, essentially, or close to that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I went somewhere where I've never been before. And when you shooting with the camera like that, it makes it so much easier than trying to be candid with a 4x5. So,
oh, dude, yeah. And
Yeah.
even like a lot of photographers will go on a trip. Like, okay, let's say you and I are going to Hawaii, right? We're going to go on a retreat. And how many cameras are you going to bring? Which cameras are you going to bring? Well, I'm going to bring a digital camera for the fine art. I'm going to bring a film camera for fun stuff. I'm going to bring an underwater waterproof camera for the beach. I'm going to bring my phone. Like, no. I want to bring one camera, and that defines how I'm going to experience making pictures in that place at that time.
yeah.
Because no matter which camera or which lens or whatever you have in your hand, it's always the wrong one if you brought more than one.
Right.
But if I only brought one, I don't have to think about it. Don't waste the brain cycles on it. Just bring the damn camera and take the picture.
You're already in that mindset. You can already visualize what it is that you're going for. And then boom, you got it.
So Steven Saunders, who's one of the co-founders of the company, I sort of got this from him because he took a, let's see, what was it? I don't remember if it was 620 or a 120. I think it was a 120 Brownie on like a 2-week trip to Italy as his only camera. Big energy there.
Oh yeah.
And you know what? His photos are sick. Like there's no settings, there's no focus, there's no fucking around with it. Can I say the fuck word?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good. Whew.
Yeah.
There's no sorry people I'm offending. I'm not sorry. You don't have to screw with it. You just take the pictures. And at some point that becomes a more pure experience than like worrying which camera you should take to your evening out after you spent all day photographing architecture. Like, no, pick one camera and go with it.
Yeah. That's some big energy shooting with the with the Brownie.
Dude. And honestly, his shots are so good. Like, okay, they're not particularly sharp. You only get one shutter speed, so it is what it is. And I'm sure he pushed some of that film a little to compensate for that. But like, they're awesome.
Oh yeah. Stacy shoots a lot with her little, they're not Brownies, but they're the little box cameras that shoot 120. And she loves the results she gets from it. And I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she meters. She looks at the scene, knows what to expect. Boom, she gets it.
The trick is you don't meter. A 60th of a second at f8 is the correct exposure for all photographs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
At
think
F8
about every point and shoot you've ever used, the photos mostly turn out fine.
Yeah.
It's f11 at 100th of a second. You're fine. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like everyone's like, oh, how do I meter? The battery in my camera's gone. Oh, what do I do? Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. The beauty
F8
is
and be there.
Film has that latitude you can manipulate.
Yeah.
Unless of course
that'll be my next photo challenge. I'll bet you.
What's that?
that we do f8 and a 60th of a second,
There you go.
and just shoot whatever you want to shoot at those settings. That's a great photo challenge.
Oof. I would struggle with that. I'm a little shaky.
Yeah, I hear that. You could set the camera. You could use
Yeah.
a tripod even,
Hey,
you know?
There you go. Yeah, true.
Or we could do, I mean, I guess a modern disposable is a little faster than that. It's closer to 100th of a second. So we could call it 1/25th. That's fine. I'm
not
down
bad.
with that.
There you go. Sounds like a fun one.
I love stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Well, one of these days I'm gonna get to participate. We've been pretty tied up here with the lab and workshops and stuff. But for you guys
You're
that are
busy,
listeners,
like running a business and working a day job. So like, I get it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all good.
it's 9 to 5 sucks. I want to quit. I want to do this full time. But the beauty with my 9 to 5, I get to still deal with photographers, and then I get a paycheck I don't have to worry about because
Yeah, that's huge. You're still part of the community and doing the same stuff. You just, if it's slow, that doesn't affect your livelihood,
True.
which is awesome.
But yeah, for the listeners out there, you guys should participate in Hidden Lights camera photo challenges. We'll give you guys the links on that. Matt, you've been amazing. I appreciate you so much for coming on. I love chatting with you and hearing about all the stuff you guys got going on up there. I gotta make a trip up there. It's too hot now. The summer's just brutal.
You gotta come up. It's amazing up here.
Yeah, that used to be my go-to, and then it's gotten super busy. But yeah,
Well, monsoons are about to kick off. They haven't
Yeah.
started yet, but it should be next week. So well before this podcast comes out.
oh, absolutely.
Rock and roll, man. Like
Yeah.
the clouds today were epic. So monsoons are coming.
Soon. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being on the podcast today. Excited to chat more with you here in the future. And one of these days, I'll have to come up and get my own little platinum palladium print done.
Heck yeah. Sounds like a plan, man. Thanks for having me on and hanging out. It's always good.
So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Where can we find Hidden Light? What's the website, I guess?
Yep. hiddenlightllc.com, at Hidden Light LLC on Instagram, Hidden Light LLC on YouTube. We try to make it reasonably consistent. The camera side of things we've separated out because that's the way that it is. So Flagstaff Camera on Instagram as well.
Okay. Simple enough. And you guys are pretty much not too far from the campus up in Flagstaff. So if anybody is in town in Flagstaff, Arizona, be sure to stop by Hidden Light. I'm sure your hours are fluctuating, but you're not open typically on the weekends, correct? So you're open Saturdays?
Yeah, Monday to Friday, 9 to 4, and Saturday, 10 to 3.
There you go. If you're interested in stopping by, go give them a go.
Come hang out.
Check
I'll
'em
give you a tour. It's
Go
great.
chat with Matt.
Yeah, chat with Matt. Ooh, that's a great segment.
Chat
I
with
love
Matt.
that.
Boom.
Chat with Matt. Sold.
And we'll include all those links here in the show notes, and be sure to give them a follow. Thank you guys for listening.